Well, hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Oh, I actually don't need these. I was watching something. But once again, it is late, and I am still a bit ill, so please bear with me. However, the show must go on. So now, we're on video number 11, talking about Mutant top 15 champions, which I deem to be the best, currently strongest, most relevant class in the entire game. As always, the standard disclaimer here is that this is a mixture of my own personal views combined with current game relevance and trends. And as always, I do prefer and value more competitive ability than casual or fun or some random questing usefulness and stuff like that. In general, I basically rank these champions higher if they are the champions that are used by the best players in the world in the most competitive situations in the world in the competitive game modes, which is Alliance War and Battlegrounds. Because number one, I sincerely do believe that that is what gives champions the most value, and that is what makes champions the most desired in general in the game. And additionally, vast majority of these champions will also absolutely crush it anywhere else in the game. Because that generally is the case. There will be some exceptions, and especially, obviously, you do keep in mind champions that are primarily in the list because of the defensive value. If that is not what you're looking for, that is fair enough. But overall, these are the champions that we use when losing matters. What I like to say is that any other game mode, winning is guaranteed eventually with enough of work. As in, any quest path, any boss fight, you can beat it eventually, either with a ton of units, or redoing it and replaying it, or bringing in different team, or ranking champions higher, or boosting up, or changing your masteries, or whatever. But eventually you can just about clear anything in the game. But when you're playing Battlegrounds or Alliance War, if you lose a war, that's it, the war's lost. You can't redo it. That's why losing there matters. That's why which champions you use there also matters the most, similar to Battlegrounds. Right, now that that is cleared up, let's get to the mutant list, shall we? And first, we obviously need to take a look at the old mutant list, which was Onslaught, Mr. Sinister, Dazzler, Jean Grey, Dust, Domino, Deadpool, Gentle, Negasonic, and Sunspot. Now this list obviously has changed since, and it's time we take a look at it. There are a handful of champions that I personally like, and I know a lot of people do like, that are not included in these lists, I think for a good reason. Like Iceman, I think deserves an honorable mention there. Potentially Blue Cyclops, however, he really isn't doing all that much, but still has some uses. Absolutely, Professor X is like on the edge there, and Storm can be an absolute banger under the right conditions too. But let's just get to it. Spot number 15 is Negasonic. And let's face it, Negasonic has lost a lot of her ground. A year and a half ago when she got released, she would have been like top 8, top 5 mutant potentially in the game, and she was used everywhere and anywhere. But the thing is, I think just about nobody liked her. I think the design version of her was bad. I think she just got created as a champion that countered all the skill defenders at that given time, period, under like any means necessary. She doesn't have like a coherent kit. She's not fun to play. Her damage is just like good enough-ish type thing, and she's kind of squishy. And she effectively got designed to destroy the skill class at that given time. And that's all she does. And now, well, quite frankly, we just have better options. We have champions that are better, on attack and defense, and that can do more, and that aren't as squishy, and that can have more damage output. So the usage of her has gone away quite a bit. At the same time, there are still some matchups, sometimes some instances where you do really look towards her. For instance, in Alliance War under specific conditions, she can potentially be the best option for some of the fights, and as well in a handful of the Battlegrounds metas, let's say. She also does increase her like pseudo defensive value in any meta that gives her some sort of safeguard and makes her a bit tankier, because she really is quite squishy. But overall, she's definitely fallen off the grace quite badly, and she's not the only mutant champion that has done so. And that's more of a reflection of how much stronger the mutant class has gotten since, and why they are doing as well as they are currently in the game. But I'll be brutally honest, I never particularly liked the champion. I did take her to rank 3 when rank 3 was kind of the standard. I did use her, but It was more of a necessity type thing, and I am very happy that I don't have to rely on her as much as I used to. Next up, I think is one of the more overhyped champions in the game, honestly. It's still a samurai. Now, he obviously does have his use. He has quite good damage output, and he has his like one perfect matchup, which is Yelena. But I do think Silver Samurai is kind of like a shittier version of Spiral, because Spiral, again, for most part, Spiral, first of all, I think has more uses outside of Serpent and Dark Phoenix matchups, in like some specific conditions, but let's say that Silver Samurai has better damage output. However, countering those two champions is way more important than countering Yelena, because since we have gotten so many different champions that are perfectly capable of dealing with Yelena, not to mention the fact that people have kind of cracked how to do that fight with just about, well, most champions in the game. Just, you know, take the push hurt level 2, take the final hit in the block, and then go for like mediums or like big bursts. And he was kind of like a champion that was designed to counter a problem that isn't that big of a problem anymore. And since so much of his design budget has seemingly went into it, I don't think he's ever going to kind of climb higher. He's another one of those champions I fully kind of expect to be out of the top 15 with new additions to the mutant class. And there's a good argument that, for instance, X23 is a better champion than he is. And I am not ranking X23 here because I did not rank any of the Christmas box champions in my list. But yeah, X23 would be about him. And it's not like I'm in love with X23 either. And this is kind of like the problem of, I'd say, Infamous Iron Man, where seemingly when Infamous Iron Man was designed, so much of his design went into being like the perfect bishop counter that he didn't do good enough of a job countering rest of the mutant class, and therefore he kind of like got left behind quite quickly. And I kind of feel, again, it's similar situation with Silver Samurai. Now, he can do some cool fights and stuff like that, but there's just nothing in particular outside of the Yelena matchup that makes him shine. And I don't think that Yelena's matchup is as important, kind of like heavily go after Silver Samurai in West and run him and use him. So here we are. I think it's a bit of a miss in design, but obviously being fairly high damage output champion still gives him some respect, I suppose. Next up, Weapon X. And Weapon X, again, is definitely on the down low. We just have too many tech champions that absolutely destroy him. And he is losing more and more of his offensive capable matchups as well, because of the nature how defenders are, and they're required to have more specific counters. For a while, he saw like a resurgence because he was quite good bullseye counter on equal ranks, and he did that fight very well and kind of like cheesy in a sense too. But again, the bullseye matchup relevance has also been going down because bullseye is not as dangerous of a defender as he once was. And yeah, I still think he has his uses. I think there are places where you do want to have access to him, but at the same time, he is not like one of those rare trophy champions that you looked at completely enviously and thinking like, oh, I wish I had Weapon X. No, these days you can do perfectly fine without him, and he doesn't pose as big of a defensive threat under generic conditions either. Again, there will be situations, there will be metas when he is tougher to defend and tougher to deal with, but yeah, I just don't think he is quite as relevant anymore as he once was. At the same time, definitely not a bad champion, definitely can still take care of business under right conditions and in correct situations. Moving on, Sunspot. Sunspot's kind of like the OG mutant nuke, I would say. And his damage is great. And his kind of like tankiness with the perfect blocks, I think, is kind of underestimated. Obviously, access to increased power gain, which kind of like lets him spawn special attacks quicker, is also quite nice. And there is still definite value to him with his, well, quite frankly, brutally high damage output, right? He does have, like, you know, a little bits of utility here and there, and the perfect block and tankiness really is like one of the best things that he has always had going for him, as well as the ability to inflict a ton of debuffs, which does synergize with plenty of abilities reasonably well. And I think this is just about where he stands. I think out of the old guard mutants, he has aged very well. He is still like a respectable offensive force. Can still take care of business inside of his own mutant class as well, by the way. And again, the fact that he is capable of countering like Yelena and a handful of newer defenders too, I don't think that's bad at all. I just don't think it is quite enough to kind of like make him in the top 10 mutant, especially with how good mutant class is currently. And the mutant class's strength really starts shining, I think, in like top 7, top 8. But let's get to the next one. And that's Dazzler. Now, this I do want to talk about a bit more. Because Dazzler, well, she came into the game and she completely dazzled the contest. She really did. In my previous ranking, I might have overshot a bit, but she was generally considered to be like a top 3, top 5 mutant for quite a while. And her case was very, very interesting because that kind of went away quickly and quietly. It was almost kind of like overnight. One moment, everybody was chasing Dazzler, everyone in Dazzler and using Dazzler for like just about everything. And then it just happens like, oh, this one meta Dazzler doesn't work for, this other meta Dazzler doesn't work for particularly great, and then there's a couple more defenders that she doesn't take. And now, I don't even remember last time I saw her. Outside of like Alliance War, I have still seen her Alliance War and maybe a couple of times Balance. But yeah, it's been like a really while. It's kind of even kind of hard to explain, I suppose, because she's still obviously great. She still has her matchups. She still can do like some awesome things and crazy amount of damage. She does have utility in her kit as well, reflecting all the physical damage that she takes from the mutants. And she was kind of the reason why Negasonic went down so fast, because she effectively did what Negasonic did as well, except she had better damage. And she wasn't as squishy, and she was just better champion overall. And then it turns out that Dazzler just quietly also kind of got replaced. And part of the reason I suspect is also because Mutant Class is so good with the dual threat champions, and her being like offensive only effectively champion, that has kind of hurt her position in the game. Another thing would be, again, like perhaps a couple of not as great matchups for her that have arrived. Still an amazingly awesome champion though, and I do think she's great. But I must admit that, for instance, when it comes to deciding my next rank 4, she's not necessarily on the top of my potential next mutant rank 4 list either, because I just think there are slightly better options that are currently more in trend, more capable of answering the problems the game is asking right now. So she might have arrived in the contest bright like a star, but that brightness might not have lasted very long, which is quite interesting if you ask me. Still great, but definitively no longer an A-list celebrity. That's how I would refer to it. Next up, we have Havok. And I generally think Havok right now is better, because Havok has been the definition of tried and true, steady, and good. Because obviously Havok is an old champion, and in many ways his kit is kind of outdated. It's fairly straightforward and simple. It's not as complex as many of the other new champions, but he just kind of happens to answer a lot of problems. First of all, one thing that I do want to point out, that many of the newer tech champions don't really deal with Havok all that well. So he has increased defensive value, because, you know, the Solwarks need to be careful because it's cold snap and it's energy damage, and he inflicts energy damage, so that's not that great. Jack doesn't have an armor up either, and he also inflicts energy damage. And then we have Maker, who's shock, and you also inflict energy damage, so that's not great for him either. And you know, Nimrod's gonna deal with him, but that big energy resistance also gonna slow you down, so he's gonna be good against Havok, but, you know, potentially maybe not as great, and Nimrod's gonna end up taking quite a bit of chip damage in that matchup, I think. But yeah, Sentinel also, in general, doesn't have that armor buff until the very end of the fight. So it is, again, quite interesting how the shift in the tech class is, number one, increasing his value. And additionally, he's also like quite a respectably good counter to Captain Britain, which is one of the hottest defenders right now. And then on top of that, obviously there are more defenders that he can deal with reasonably or quite well in his own way, especially with the special 3 skip, which is quite good for him too, and that has increased his capability. So Havok's definitely making a comeback now, which I am not against at all right now. I genuinely do like this champion, and do like the fact that he is managing to become more relevant again, kind of similar to Hyperion. And he's definitely now in consideration for one of my next rank 4 mutant options as well. But there's somebody else that we're going to have to discuss soon. Next up is Domino. Domino is still good. She's still viable champion for sure. She's still present. She's just not as kind of critical. Part of the reason is because we have so many champions that do unavoidable damage now, and Domino doesn't even seem to be like close to the worst. We have the Captain Britain, we do have like the Dark Phoenix, we do have some other annoying champions to go up against. So Domino's threat has been decreasing a little bit. Another thing is obviously because of Captain Britain and because of Domino's mutant class, there are more tech champions that are being like regularly mained, and that was kind of like one of the weaknesses of Domino, where if you do have a counter against Domino, she generally goes down quite quick and fast, and that hasn't been working out the best for her. But I do absolutely still think she still has place and value in the game, because obviously number one, she can still put in work on attack. That obviously the scary bit about Domino on attack is you can have either amazing fight or completely awful fight. Since the good olden days, I have always referred to Domino as the bipolar bish, because that's exactly how it is. You never know which Domino you're gonna get. You're gonna drop that level 2 and either nothing's gonna happen or opponent's gonna be borderline dead and there's gonna be like a massive crit bleed, and it's gonna be awesome. So that is something that's unreliable, but in a pinch it can absolutely save you. And then again, there's the defense. Obviously, because without a counter, Domino is still a problem. And there are plenty of champions, especially with their modern kits, where there's a ton of abilities for them to activate, and that crit fail damage generally can really add up. But at the same time, let's not sugarcoat it. Domino is not as present and dangerous as she was like a year ago, because just by comparison, we have champions that make our life so much worse than Domino does right now. So there we go. I do think Domino is still a top 10 mutant, for sure. I think she's still to be respected. Whenever opponent does draft a Domino, you do immediately and desperately look for a counter. But you can find one more often nowadays. Right, let's move on. Number 8 is Dust. I think Dust has slipped a bit. There are many reasons why I still love her, though. Obviously, number 1 is because she's still a solid defender. She switches off willpower, so any chip damage accumulated in the fight against Dust, is kind of like hard to come back from, and that typically stays there. That is great, especially with any kind of nodes that do increase the difficulty of the fight. I love that. I also think she's underrated offensively because number 1, she does have like the trip immunities that do put in work. Also, I love that she has 100% chance to glance a defender on well-timed blocks, and that completely switches off a lot of abilities and nodes. Like we have had all of these nodes where you get disorient on parry or so on and so forth, and that just works so good for Dust, and I love that. And obviously with level 3 skip, her damage reach is much better as well, because now instead of dropping heavy attack, you can just go for level 3, and that doesn't consume any power, then go straight for level 2, and then just go ham on the opponent. So there is like a bigger value for her offensively with the level 3 skip as well. So I still think she is an absolutely good addition in the game, a good representative mutant class, quite unique. Obviously, she can also deal with the unstoppable, which is a relevant thing because Kabam loves spamming that unstoppable mechanic ever so often. And this is where I see Dust, not quite necessarily as high as I did before, but still absolutely relevant and valuable. Next up, I'm going to be giving Gentle. Gentle stock, in my opinion, kind of has increased. Because number 1, he's like an okay attacker, right? Kind of similar to Dust. He's not like turning any heads, but he is quite a decent attacker. He is another champion that does interact extremely well with any attack modifications due to his Daunted. kind of like Jane Foster and so on and so forth. And therefore, you guys are going to see firsthand in the very next match, starting Wednesday, how fast Gentle can nuke champions when he does get some sort of a little bit of a boost benefit to his special 2 damage. That is going to be a very cool, fun thing to see, by the way. But all that said, obviously, he also turns out to be a bit nastier on defense than people realize, because there's quite a lot of things to keep track on. When you combine that with a node or 2, these are very hard to manage fights. That I can probably say that, again, at the very, very tippy top with the best skilled players in the world, they are more capable of doing that, but there aren't that many people who are always on the ball as well, because again, you can't crit against him much. You do need to keep an eye out for when he's going to go unstoppable. Then if there's like another timer or 2 from some different nodes coming in there, it's just a lot to keep up with. And obviously, inherently, his resistance to the crits and the physical resistance also kind of like shut down a ton of potential matchups. And yeah, I do think Gentle is aging very, very well in the game. Initially, I was kind of like more critical toward the guy, but I think he's doing quite well in the game. Again, he's one of those champions that's not going to be like crazy all the time, every time, but there will be a ton of times when Gentle is really, really putting in the groundwork. Moving on, another champion that kind of had to grow on me. I genuinely think Cassandra might be on the up and up. Because number one, she can be also like somewhat annoying defender, because like there's plenty to watch out for. You can't punish the heavy attack, which again can interact with a lot of like nodes and champion abilities and be quite frustrating to deal with. Then her special attacks take absolutely forever. Level 2 is harder to deal with, and if you do push her to level 2, and if you can't dex it all perfectly, you're going to end up dealing with reverse controls as well. But even if you're dealing with level 1, again, you do need to be like very conscious about it, and it's not like the easiest thing. She does have some regen after every one of those to kind of increase her survivability. So she's like an okay defender. She's not like the craziest defender. And I think that all kind of describes Cassandra, Gentle, and Dust. They each will have their metas to shine on defense. In general, kind of like fights, when everything's super easy, they're manageable, but when you do add extra complexity to the fights, they become like some of the worst champions to go up against. With Cassandra specifically, that happened quite recently because of the root mechanic, where you do get rooted whilst you're away from the opponent, and she just became an absolute nightmare. And stuff like that is going to happen more and more often as well. And then offensively, there are kind of like plenty of like little hidden tricks that you can use with her. And effectively, players realize that her best rotation is just spamming the level 1s, and the way that root works and how much you can extend that final damage loop. It kind of reminded me almost of like OG Thor, where you just kind of like went for the kill when opponent had like half bar of power, because you kept stunning the opponent. And she has a similar kind of like fight finishing rotation, where you just kind of like need to have an experience with the champion, because she does have very consistent damage output. And then you're capable of finishing fights out actually quite fast with her as well. Now, she's not an easy champion to use, so I do fully expect for there still to be some, time for people to actually learn how to use her fully. But I think, yeah, she's been one of the sleeper hit releases of the year, to be honest. And I think she's a very capable champion. Not quite as the top 5, but definitely somebody that you should look out for and respect in everybody's decks and around the contest. Next up, Deadpool X-Force. Deadpool X-Force is characterized very simply. The best mutant nuke. That's about it. He is exactly that. He is a mutant nuke that kind of works just about always, because nothing and nobody is immune to his splood whatever debuffs. And he has a very, very good kind of like finishing rotation. When you go for your like level 2, there's the passive stun, you drop a combo, then you go into relic, then you drop another combo, then you go into level 1, and then most of the things die. And that is like a very, very powerful rotation, because it effectively means that you generally just need to get to a level 2. And if you have done everything else right along the way, you're going to be finishing on the fight. So he can finish fights very fast, very quickly. And that is in like a generic type of situation. When there is any attack modification in so many of the metas, he can finish fights with that level 1. Give him like 100% or 150% fury, and that level 1's just about nuke everybody, right? Let alone like power shields or whatnot. Like, the fact that you can finish fights with like a single or 2 level 1s, it's crazy good. And he has a reasonably good matchup spread as well, as I mentioned, because nothing's really kind of like immune to it. You can just go up against bleed immune champions, and you can still do the fight. You can go up against bleed resistant champions, and you can still do the fight. So what's the best way to put it? There's again particularities about his kit, and how you are limited. For instance, you're not able to always throw heavy attack when you want, otherwise you kind of waste your ramp up. And there are again things to keep in mind whilst using him, and he doesn't necessarily counter miss or evade or unstoppable. But at the same time, the way he deals with opponents is efficient, because it either comes from the bleeds or it comes from the passive blue debuffs that nobody's immune to, and again, nobody's like really capable of countering that either. Yeah, I think he is the best mutant and potentially one of the best nuke champions in the game. Really, I don't think he's better like Starkman Spider-Man, because Starkman Spider-Man has like ridiculous set of matchups when it comes to like nuking things down. But he's not that far off. He's definitely one of the like 5 best nukes in the game, I would say. That is exclusively offensively oriented. And if he had defensive value, he'd probably be higher on this list, to be honest. He's a very good offensive mutant. And he's also kind of like the standard that I think any offensive mutant has to contend with. For instance, like when X-23 got announced, that was like what I was immediately thinking about. It's like, is X-23 better than Deadpool X-Force? And if she isn't, like, why would I want to use her? Because like Deadpool X-Force is already like such a good mutant nuke right now. And I think that might kind of be a problem for the class as well, because again, mutants, the top 4 mutants are all so hard to get ahead of right now, in my opinion, because all of them have tremendous amount of value on attack and on defense. So let's start with Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister is still that guy, man. The only problem for Mr. Sinister, the only thing that I don't like is that he's completely different champion based on whether you get a cosmic buff or not. And that largely is only because he's subject to an equity mastery. He puts himself under an equity mastery. So again, he's completely different champion if opponent isn't running an equity, and then he's just crazy good. But yeah, if you get a cosmic icon, then Mr. Sinister does some crazy good things. If you don't, he's still, viable. He's going to finish fight typically very healthy, but on the slower side. Additionally, defensively, still, there's so many things that can generally go wrong against Mr. Sinister, and he has absolutely maintained a solid level of defensive value. No questions asked. He's again one more of those defenders where you automatically look for a very specific counter, because you know that otherwise you're just going to lose. Not that you're going to take some damage, you just know that unless you have a good counter, you're probably not even going to be able to finish the fight. So that is a very high level of defender. And then again, offensively, he does have matchups that he takes. For instance, the fact that again he can be okay against Captain Britain, he can do Yelena, he can do like a whole bunch of like trickier fights. Again, how fast he does them generally does depend on a lot of outside factors. And the one thing that significantly boosts his stock in my eyes as well is he interacts with attack modification incredibly well, and that is to say he interacts with a ton of nodes incredibly well. For instance, something like Power Shield, for instance, some Fury that you can get, and then you can effectively double or triple his damage, and he's capable of finishing fights with like single level 1 on a Power Shield, which is awesome. And then yeah, he's tremendously good for just about everything in contest. With all that resume, it's still kind of ridiculous to think about the fact that he's kind of a ramp-up champion, and when we had to do Necropolis, right, he ramped up, and he was an absolute monster ramped up in Necropolis, and he was finishing fights super quickly as well. because of all the cosmics that you could finish with him, and just general increase in his attack damage as well as combat power rate, and you were just spamming those level 1s with heavies, and he was doing like brutal things there. So fairly unique champion, still a very successful buff that's aging amazingly in the game. I do, however, think that Captain Britain currently, right now, is the most toxic defender in the game. I swear to God, she has gotten to me a lot, and I don't think I'm alone here. It was one of those things that I did not see coming. Even after she got buffed initially, when I was testing champions against her, like my 6-star, I was like, it's not that bad, it shouldn't be that bad, but oh fuck me, it's bad. She is disgustingly, disgraceful addition to the game. She fucking sucks. She really does. In plenty of instances, even champions that are designed to counter her still get clapped in the cheeks. And yeah, there's just like one Neuroshock immune champion in the game, and he sucks. And before Captain Britain was like such a popular defender, nobody paid that champion any time of day. Like, she single-handedly turned a shit champion into a meta champion just because he counters her. That is like a definition of a shitty-ass stupid defender. And a crazy powerful one. She's so toxic on defense that it's so frustrating. And she's a bitch. She really is a bitch on defense. And it's not just the abilities. It's not just the fact that she has a 3% safeguard and you basically deal with unavoidable dot against her or take forever to deal with her. It's also what Kabam did to her recovery speeds and animation. She recovers from her heavy attack so fast. And it's inconsistent how fast she does it. And she recovers from her level 2 so fast that sometimes even rushing in to punish it, she just jexes away and smacks you in her face. And you're already in a high stress situation trying to deal with her. That bitch. And then on top of it all, obviously she's also quite a good offensive champion because, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't she be, right? She turned out to be amazing for the Colosseum, FYI. Additionally to all of that, you can, push opponent level 3 and tank a special 3 with her, because guess what? Her safeguard is just going to eat it up, and you're going to take 3% of your damage. So if you're in tricky position, you can just tank level 3 with Captain Britain. Other than that, Kabam just introduced Skip Special 3, which made her, again, significantly faster attacker, where you just build up your level 3 and start nuking down just about anything that moves. And for a champion that's so busted on defense, it seemed borderline unfair, but fine. Who am I to judge? And the bitch. She is the top bitch in the defense right now. I genuinely think she's, if not the top defender, then the top 3 for sure. But she's also by far and away the most toxic one to deal with right now. Because again, when you go up against Dark Phoenix, at least like the fight itself is gonna be straightforward. You go up against Dark Phoenix, you just bring in Nico, and that's like basic vanilla candy type fight. She makes this annoying with going stun immune on your first parry hit when she enters her damage mode, and then there's the stupid safeguard, and there's stupid recovery speed, and then she throws her stupid level 1 when nobody wants it. And fucking hate her. But she's, obviously strong. I hate her. She's the bitch, though. Alright, next up, second best mutant in the game, I think, is Jean Grey. Jean Grey, again, has that same thing that Gentle does. And Mr. Sinister, where any attack modification turns her into an insane nuke. She has generally decently good damage output, kind of in line with the solid dual-purpose champions in game. But again, any type of fury, any type of prowess, any type of, attack modifiers, she just goes completely haywire, which you guys will be able to check in the next meta too. Also, there's the defensive value, which comes from, number 1, her being tanky and her power shield being able to consume and eat up quite a lot of damage. You don't really not wanting to crit too much against her, because that exhaustion is going to do a number on you, believe you me. And Besides that, on top of it all, you have to contend with reverse controls. That, you know, sometimes you can control, sometimes you just need to be on your toes, because whenever she activates a special attack, obviously she has a chance to reverse your controls, but she might not. And overall, it's just like a very, very good package. I think Jean Grey in general is kind of like a definition that's not broken and busted by herself, like in any reasonable manner, but it's driving quite close to it. And again, in specific kind of situations and conditions, she can be like one of the worst defenders to deal with. And then in specific situations and conditions, she can be one of the fastest attackers in the game. And without any extra kind of like power-ups and boosts for her, she still is always kind of like a very solid pick, because she does counter a number of, you know, good defenders, annoying defenders in the game. And she has plenty of utility, and again, she does have plenty of defensive value. So in general, I think she's just kind of made to be all around amazing champion. That's what she's a top 10 champion in the game, in my opinion, for sure. That's Captain Britain, actually, I think now, which is probably the reason why I think mutants are the best class in the game. They have 3 champions in top 10, I think. Right, let's move on. Top dog is still Onslaught. I think Onslaught at this point has just like proven himself time and time again. He is more than capable attacker in battlegrounds, but he's insanely good attacker in the rest of the game too. General rotations, again, is going to be like level 1, level 2, unless you get good RNG, in which case you just go straight for level 2. That passive stun and ability to stun just about unstunnable entities is putting in a lot of work for him as well. Tons of immunities or pseudo-immunities to bleed, incinerate, and shock, basically. And he has some defensive ability accuracy reduction on his level 1. Obviously, access to crush can also be helpful and is a defensive threat as well. Does have the Daunted, does have the ability to inflict a ton of debuffs basically as well. Which is of opponent's willpower mastery, then access to neuroshocks, which is kind of like one of the more potent, capable dots in the game right now. The kind of like the current new king of the dots, I would say, because it also bypasses miss, and there's just one champion in the game that's immune to it. Has, again, ways to go completely bonkers and haywire, either when he gets shocked or incinerated or cold snapped, or again, any attack modification in combination with those Downteds is a very, very heavy kind of like ability. His matchup spreadsheet list is also very, very good. You know, the fact that you can just randomly, you know, do Onslaught with him relatively well most of the time. The fact that he can do Thanos quite well, or Maestros, and obviously the entire skill class can get absolutely wrecked by him. And yeah, he is performing very well, both on attack and on defense. Obviously, on defense, you know, he wouldn't be as bad as he generally is, but AI makes him worse. And, you know, sometimes he just refuses to throw a special attack, or is gonna like bait you for a while. And obviously, there's the reverse controls on level 2 that you have to deal with if you want to be super fast against him. And plenty of champions, again, will end up getting kind of like unavoidable damage against him, especially if they are metal. So there's like a whole subset of champions that are not suitable against him, even if they do have like class advantage. And then again, for the rest of the game, he's again amazing for long form content. He's one of the best champions for Coliseum, was like one of the MVPs for Gauntlet, and was one of the MVPs for Necropolis challenges. And just about any time something needs to get done in the game, chances are Onslaught is going to be good for it. And that really has kind of like proven his claim. I know that recently how some people have started talking about maybe Jean is the better one. It's like, no. Onslaught number 1 has the resume of the current leader, because just about anything in the game that has happened since Onslaught got released, he was good for it. Be that Coliseum, be that Incursions, be that Necropolis, be that any single challenge type of content, be that, you know, just about every Battlegrounds meta, be that just about every Alliance War season, Onslaught's always been there. Absolutely, sincerely, firmly believe that Onslaught is a top 3 champion in the game on his merits, as well as probably the sexiest and best rank up decision for your first rank 5 or whatever, because on top of being good for everything in the game, both offensively and defensively, Onslaught also happens to be like top 3 prestige champion in the game, so there's literally no downside. He's a champion with no downside, in my opinion. He's gonna be useful everywhere, and, you know, again, also in whatever outside the fight mechanics that people have in game. Yeah, Onslaught is the daddy of the mutant class. Onslaught is, again, top 3 champ in the game, in my opinion. Actually, you know what? I'd probably say he's like the overall best champion in the game. Most likely. And I generally always said Serpent, Thanos, and Onslaught. But all things considered, I think at this point, would be Onslaught as the daddy. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, by the way, last bit of my rant. Almost forgot. I fucking hate using this guy. It's like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't cuss that much, but I really don't like playing with Onslaught. Onslaught's amazing. And I fully recognize that. But on a personal side, there isn't a single fight that I think, oh good, I get to use Onslaught. Like, I never want to use him for like casual questing. He's not the type of champion that I look forward to using. And it's obviously to do with, you know, you having to land your heavy attacks and watch so many timers, and again, like having a very strict and specific rotation, and God forbid, you're not going to drop a heavy attack in time, your entire damage is going to go away, and all of these things. So, as good as he is, and he is, not my favorite, which should kind of like, hopefully, speak to me genuinely thinking that he's amazing, hence why I'm ranking him so high, not because I particularly like him. I absolutely don't. I think he's the best champion in the game, but he's definitely not my cup of tea either. Anyways, so that's that. Right, let's get to it. So this is the new list. You know, Onslaught, Jean Grey, Captain Britain, Mr. Sinister, DPX, Cassandra, Gentle Dust, Domino, Havok, Dazzler, Sunspot, Weapon X, Solar Samurai, and Negasonic. Let me know what you guys think, and next video should be quite juicy one. That's going to be overall the best champions in the game. I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about